All right, chapter 35, let's call this one timing. Why? Because hard work and some hard times are going to lead Jacob into making a great decision in a timely fashion before he loses his wife toward the end of the chapter. And, of course, if life were still enough for us to make all the right decisions at all the right times, wouldn't it be great? But we have choices that we have to make under pressure. And in the same way, Jacob had choices to make under pressure. And so some things he should have done earlier, he gets a chance to do now. And it's a blessing from God because he gets a chance to make some things right before Rachel passes. First, the hard work. Well, as we talked about before, he spent a long time working under Laban. And one of the things that we noticed before is that Laban, interestingly enough, referred to Jacob's God as his God, because as we are going to learn in this chapter and really the chapters leading up to it, Laban had his own gods. And so the hard work that Jacob endured allowed him to get a great viewpoint of what it's like to work for a godless man in a lot of ways, because the gods that Laban was working were really no gods at all. They're gods that, as we're going to see later on in the prophets, the interesting thing about idolatry is it allows us to recreate God in our image. And that's often what we do, whether or not we create a whole new God or whether or not we just mix and match pieces of God with things we prefer. That's exactly what Jacob got to see as he saw all the treachery he dealt with under Laban. And so now he has passed a point in his life where the hard times are, as we talked about in the previous chapter. His daughter was flat out, as we avoided saying, the day before, raped. And so now, if you've ever had to deal with difficult times, it causes you to be introspective and do an evaluation. Okay, what kind of house cleaning do we need to do at this time to clear out anything that is either physical or spiritual clutter? And that's one of the things he's doing in this chapter. God is going to call him to move after his sons have taken revenge for the rape of their sister. It's caused trouble with his neighbors, but God is going to protect them so that no one takes vengeance on them. But he's going to tell his wives, look, you got to get rid of those foreign gods. Those were basically their father's gods. He said, I am now clearing the clutter so that I can serve the God who actually answers me, the God who is protecting my children from the retaliation of the people around us, the God who has answered me and helped me make peace with Esau, the God who has delivered me from almost 20 years of labor under a wicked man or a dishonest man, Laban. And so with that, it's time for us to clean house. So it's time to get rid of the foreign gods. And so ironically enough, they bury the foreign gods near the place where his daughter was taken advantage of, and they leave them behind there. And the timing was great because not too long after that, he's going to have the blessing of another son, Benjamin, by Rachel. But that labor is going to be hard, and it's going to cost him the life of his wife. And so in a timely way, Jacob tells his family to get rid of the foreign gods just before his wife passes later in the chapter. And so one of the things that we can also learn is this, is that in working for human bosses, later on the New Testament is going to remind us it is going to be impossible to serve two masters. And there are times when we can work for the Labans of this world, realizing that the worse they treat us, the more we lower the bar for their conduct. But we'll set up a double standard for God where when he disappoints us, we'll, as we've talked about before, be tempted to shake the finger at him. The thing is this, if we're working so hard for men who treat us poorly, we have to have as much regard for the God who hears. And that's what Jacob is going to call God here. He's going to say, we have to put away these foreign gods so that I can serve the God who has delivered my sons from the Canaanites, who's delivered me from my brother Esau, and has delivered me out of the hand of hard labor under Laban. And show at least as much regard for the God who answers us as I did for the man who oppressed me for 20 years. And so likewise, as we go forward and we look at the stresses that life puts on us, pulling us in many different directions, it may be time to ask ourselves how much we're allowing our service to the Labans of this world to take away the time that we have to say thank you and to honestly contemplate the directions that the God who hears us is leading us into. But as we often say, God's best to you as you go forward in him.